It's a dark time in Galaxy of Heroes. The meta is out of control. But wait, what is that? Is that a light at the end of the tunnel? Could it be the solution we've been looking for? I must find out. It's so pretty. It's so perfect. The answers to all the problems are in front of me now. A way to counter Shakti. Right, we've been putting this conversation out for a while. We keep kicking the can down the road this year, 2022. That is going to be the Inquisitors. Well, we're here and we got a full team of 5 finally. And I will admit, I've been a bad director of the video gaming division. After the Ninth Sister, I stopped really doing these initial character reviews on these more recent ones because really the team wasn't going anywhere, as we could tell. But now that we have the full team of 5, we know they're needed for the Grand Inquisitor, and you're going to need them at Relic 5 to unlock them. We're definitely going to have a conversation about them. Are they the prime Shakti counter that the developers are trying to sell them as? Unless they're fighting like Shakti with Commander Cody and Clone Sergeant. Let's just say this team's a little bit rough, but there's good news associated with today's initial faction review. Keep in mind, at this current point in time, my review is really only based off what I have right now in front of me, and that means no Grand Inquisitor. And based off of the Darth Malgus kit that we just saw the other day, if they're trying to make this guy a territory war machine up against Kenobi, I suspect the Grand Inquisitor is going to have a very solid kit because these guys are going to need all the help possible. But anyways, let's roll some gameplay. Thank you all for coming out to our stream yesterday. We did a lot of testing with these Inquisitors that we have here with the introduction of the 5th brother. And there are a couple of interesting things that they got going on. Let's highlight the pros here. Pro number 1, and it's kind of a significant one, but also they kind of need it. In terms of factions out there, this faction, the Inquisitors that is, has pretty much the highest base average speed compared to a variety of other factions out there. I mean, for the most part, these guys are clocked in at 186 base speed aside from the Ninth Sister, and that's a really darn good starting speed to work with. Put on some decent mods, you're going to be easily seeing these Inquisitors, assuming people care about them in the future, anywhere in the 330s, 350s, because they have such a good high amount of base speed. And that means they can get some early plays out there against a lot of teams that, Captain Rex is still a little faster than them. I kind of suspect that the Grand Inquisitor is going to be implementing some sort of way to give them even more speed on top of their already high base speed that they have in Galaxy. So that's thing number 1. And I think it's going to be important down the road. Thing number 2, one thing I do like about this team, they put out tons of debuffs. And although we did just get the 5th brother, one new thing that we also got into the mix here is the fact that they got a rework. They all got brand new unique abilities called Patience. And the key thing that's going to take advantage of all those debuffs is it creates a small version of the Emperor Palpatine turn meter train. Now, to be fair, I haven't really seen a train yet from this team unless you run Emperor Palpatine lead. But just because of the unique ability, these Inquisitors, so long as there's 3, every time Purge is being dispelled, which gets dispelled a lot because it doesn't stick on, it's easy to cleanse, all the other stuff, you're getting 3% turn meter. So at most, since Purge stacks up to a maximum of 6 per character, you can hypothetically get 18% turn meter every single time those 6 purges are being dispelled off a single character alone. So they have high speed. They have ways of getting turn meter. For example, I mean, it's not going to be an impressive battle, but we did go up against a Mon Mothma team. And as you know, Mon Moth, every time she's doing the Italian greeting, as I like to say, with her basic ability, she's cleansing off Purge. And that is kind of nice because it kind of helps you keep up a little bit with those turn meter heavy teams that also have cleansing capabilities. So again, nice. And then if you pair Palpatine, I'm trying to think of some other things I like about this team before we get into things I don't like about the team. But when you throw Emperor Palpatine in the mix, you're going to see some really fun gameplay in a little bit here that we did yesterday. Palpatine has a lot of turn meter, right? With his lead, he's like he's second king of turn meter after, of course, the Imperial Troopers. Well, I guess Kenobi's the king of turn meter again because he stops it all. But with these guys, you're gonna keep running a nice loop of turn meter. They apply a lot of debuffs, which allows them to get tons of turn meter under Emperor Palpatine lead. And when the purge is expiring, you're kind of double dipping in the turn meter gain. Their new pace ability giving him 3% turn for each stack of purge, but also the Palpatine lead. Every time those debuffs are expiring, it's feeding more turn meter to your team. So you run this nice little train, and we went up against it's not an ideal Galactic Legends raid team, but it kind of was really leaning in to Rey with some Jedi. You got some non-Jedis on there. And as you know, with the fifth brother now, when you have at least 3 stacks of purge on someone and the fifth brother comes in and uses their special ability, Shrouded in Darkness, well, you can get some fear on the enemy. And as you can see here, we did. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to be nice to this faction here. Let's try to stay as straight and narrow as possible before we get a little too crazy with my opinion after here. But the nice thing is, with all these debuffs going on this team, finding ways to manipulate the oddities of these kits with the Jedi leads but non-Jedi allies, or Jedi enemy but non-Jedi allies. It's a little weird, but you're able to run a fairly nice train around Rey. It's sometimes actually too good, where we're applying way too many debuffs, and we're also making the purge expire, where it was actually very hard to let Rey and her friends take a turn so we can go ahead and start keeping our momentum moving forward and then get rid of them after they pop out of damage immunity, or even when they're in ultimate. So there is potential with this faction, is one thing I want to put out there. The way they stand today, it's not great, but with their high speed, turn meter gains through their passive just from being Inquisitors, and moving forward, other ways of getting more turn meter, such as Emperor Palpatine, they have potential, and we still have yet to see the Grand Inquisitor come the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. And that's where I'm thinking, well, I would hope so, for being a newly defined legendary event that requires now Relic 5, and it's only 7-star unlock or bust. I would hope that it would add an element to this that's going to make this faction perform even better. But after that, I mean, the other highlights, I suppose, is Nine Sisters, very plug and play. I think she's one of the shining forces of this team. You've seen me use her a ton, just because she's a solid Imperial tank and she's an online force user, so you can use her with a variety of Empire teams, or Star Killer, for that example. And Seven Sister is a pretty solid healer. After that, it kind of stops there. After you talk about the speed, the debuffs, and the turn meter, and it's really hard to put it into words. But I just feel like although they're doing a lot, they're not doing much. And you really see this in their marketed Shock T counter. I know I joke about it, but they really tried to sell the fifth brother as, yo, use with the Inquisitors for maximum benefits. Counter Shock T mechanics. And people are saying, is this false advertising? I mean, they said it counters Shock T mechanics. They didn't say it counters Shock T teams. We had a hard time beating Shock T Bad Batch, for example. We were able to beat Shock T 501st, albeit it was a little brutal on the team. But yes, we were able to counter elements of the Shock T faction. And I feel like this team is a little, again, no Grand Inquisitor, but I feel like this team was designed for 2018 in mind. We have some Jedi Knight Revan battles here, and man, I gotta say, if they were in charge of purging the Jedi, man, it would take them quite a long time based on the Jedi Knight Revan performance. But if you guys remember how the metas worked back in like 2018, before Galactic Legends were a thing, pretty much there was the top team, the team to have. If you didn't have it, you're gonna suck at the game. Now the game's a bit more diverse, and we gotta talk about that a little bit in terms of, you know, giving a fully fleshed out review on this faction. But back then, Jedi Knight Revan was king of the game. I honestly feel like Jedi Knight Revan is to blame for a lot of the power creep that we've seen in Galaxy Heroes. But normally, in order to sell the next team, for it to be enticing, it just had to be a little bit better over the previous team. Now, not to say that these guys are miles upon miles better than Jedi Knight Revan, but they seem to be good enough to beat Jedi Knight Revan. And that would have been maybe applaudable. Back in 2018, they can kind of hang out there with Shock T, but we're not in 2018. We're in 2022, and the teams they can beat right now, these are supercharged mods. Like, I was really trying to take advantage of their high base speed. On average, this team was in the 350s, 360s, excluding Nine Sister from the mix. So they were fast, but the problem is with the meta right now, especially we're in a heated race, and this is where Grand Inquisitor, I suspect, is going to help. You know, you need more than that. Captain Rex, for example, just mediocre Captain Rex with Shock T and just with 501st clones. he's going to be easily in the 370s plus. And you got things like Gideon, things like Maul, for example, that get so much turn meter. And other teams, yeah, we got a little turn meter for the Inquisitorius, but other teams have turn meter as well. So they need more. They need more to get this team rolling. And I find them right now to be, maybe, if I'm being generous, a C grade faction right now, with the possibility of being able to work with other teams like Emperor Palpatine League. We talked about that. Even funny things like Director Krennic might be interesting. I actually find Director Krennic Palpatine might be the best way to lead these Inquisitors in the battle, because you got lots of debuffs, lots of critical hits, turns, so you can try to get perpetual ability blocks on the opposing team. So there are going to be ways to maybe take advantage of these guys, but for more lower echelon things. And this is by no means a friendly entry level team. Someone is saying, oh, this might be the new Phoenix team. I would buy that, but I highly doubt they're going to be farmable, like how the Phoenix are farmable in the Galactic Warriors Squadron and Cantina, where you can get the whole team to 7 stars in roughly 2 weeks of being a brand new player inside the game. If that was marketed that way, especially with their leads having a variety of things, you know, the counter, Shock T maybe, Jedi Knight Revan, Bastila, Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker, like this could have been sold as a pretty cool beginner faction, but this is 2022. We don't do that many generous things anymore for new players or free-to-play players for that matter. So even in that sense, this team is not really being marketed well. So the question is, what is the point of them? And that doesn't take a rocket surgeon degree to figure that out. It's really meant to just, you know, milk some money out, or your time, your resources, to get the Grand Inquisitor. And we don't know what the Grand Inquisitor is going to be offering for this faction just yet. But as I said, we saw Darth Malgus. We know when they need to make a banger kit, they can come out with a banger kit. And I think they're not going to fall short on this. I'm actually being somewhat generous here. I think with the Grand Inquisitor, especially in their territory wars, they've been selling Grand Inquisitor as a way to counter Jedi Master Kenobi. And you're starting to see the pieces here, right? You got, for example, Fifth Brother getting fear on Commander Ahsoka Tano. We did a little bit of Lord Vader versus Jedi Master Kenobi with the full Inquisitor. Spoiler, the Inquisitors right now aren't really making Lord Vader better. But we did see that in application, though, if you can imagine a territory war setting, being able to get Commander Ahsoka Tano in fear, because you got 3 stacks of Purge on General Kenobi, right? He gets the fear on Commander Tano, you're stalling up that the Force Leap from Commander Ahsoka Tano. So you're starting to see that. I can see the Grand Inquisitor coming in and adding a few extra layers on this team to get it to that point of being a top tier territory war team. But that kind of leads into the question, should we care if they're going to be a territory war team? Malgus being a conquest unit, we know that Inquisitors are going to be needed to a degree. We don't know yet how important, how much of a necessity they're going to be to get Malgus. So I'm not sure if we should say, all right, they're going to be needed for Malgus yet. We got to wait and see. I'm hoping some data mines are going to come in. We're going to know if they're going to be important for that, but they are going to be needed for that. We know they're going to be needed for a couple of galactic challenges. Not enough of a selling point for me. They're going to be needed for an occasional assault battle. I assume there's going to be another faction as well that can also be used for the assault battle. So I'm not sure if that's going to be a huge selling point. And then the killer of it all, we're just going to assume they're going to be great in territory wars. Should we care that much about territories? The reaction to Darth Malgus was, holy cow, 180 degree difference compared to the Inquisitors. Especially, you know, it sounds cool countering Kenobi, but Grand Arena is just way more important in the game. The crystals are there, the resources are there for the most part, and it's more frequent, whereas territories 4 times a month, and you know, the meta's not as big. There's ways to counter Kenobi still. Cheaper ways that you probably already have in your roster, like maybe Jedi Master Luke. It's weird to say that, but more people have Jedi Master Luke than the Grand Inquisitor in the upcoming future. Sith Eternal, even Lord Vader for that matter. And I'm, again, down the road, I'm sure more people are going to adopt this team. But even so, unless they do something to territories to really incentivize people, I don't know where this faction is going to be going in the future. And maybe we got to get a time. Maybe the next year or two, territory wars and Grand Arena, those individualistic metas and those Omicrons might be fleshed out a little bit more. And maybe a year or two from now, we're going to see some territory war changes that'll make this team seem a lot more enticing and a lot more important. But as the game stands right now, in this early days of Omicron still, and specific game mode viability, it's just a very hard team to swallow. And the worst part about it is, at least as it stands, when you start building up this team to lead up to Grand Inquisitor, I don't think they're going to be doing a whole lot until then. Unlike Bad Batch, you can get a ton of use out of them until you use them. They get Lord Vader down the road. So time will tell. I'm not a fan of this faction, and I don't think it's a very controversial opinion. I've been kind of keeping my pulse on the community, and people are like, I've been falling asleep watching this faction. I've been falling asleep trying out these marquee events. I forgot to even do their marquee events. Definitely one of the least exciting factions in a while. But as I said, that's in the current present time. Maybe Grand Inquisitor will make them a bit more viable outside of game modes. We got, you can see they have some things maybe counter General Anakin Skywalker, but the 501st are still a little too good. And it's really hard to keep that purge on the Gas Master himself. I'm going to wrap my thoughts up right there. You guys let me know, what are your initial impressions of the Inquisitors? Is this the thing you've been looking for in Galaxy? The counter shock team mechanics. Well, leave that like, comment down below, and subscribe so you're not missing a thing. And always remember, my brothers and sisters, through our and Jesus, that it's great to be in the Empire today.